There's something incredibly fascinating about the sea. It has inspired both dramatist and poet alike. It can be beautiful, somber, dangerous, and deceptive, a friend or a foe, hiding its dark secrets in its fathomless depths.
What is it? What's wrong?
Go on, wait in my car. I'll cope.
Look at the hand, the ring. It's him.
Who?
My uncle. He was missing for a week. He looked.
Now, go on, wait in my car. I'll look after things. Go on.
You. I'm sorry, but who are you?
Simon Templar.
Thank you, Mrs. Haggerty.
It's very cooperative of you, Mrs. Fleming, to let me go through your husband's private papers. Did he seem at all worried or depressed about anything?
What do you mean, Inspector? Do I think my husband committed suicide?
Do you?
Well, he hadn't been happy for some time. As you can see from the accounts, the Fleming fishing fleet hadn't been doing well for quite a while. The captain, well, he didn't take easily to modern methods. Held to the old ways.
The world was changing, Inspector. My uncle couldn't change with it.
I think he felt his life was over.
And therefore killed himself.
What other conclusion is there?
Possibly several. Well, thank you, Mrs. Fleming, for your time and the tea. My sincere sympathy. The coroner's inquest is scheduled for the day after tomorrow.
Dr. Russell, did you perform an autopsy on the late Captain Fleming?
Yes, sir.
And who identified the body?
There were 3 identifications. The deceased's widow, Mrs. Arlene Fleming, his nephew, Mr. Andrew Carter, and his niece, Miss Diana Fleming. Positive identification was difficult because of the condition of the body, which had been in the sea for 6 or 7 days. A tattoo mark on the right forearm and a distinctive signet ring on the 5th finger of the left hand were positively identified.
Was alcohol found in the body?
Yes, sir. The deceased must have been highly intoxicated just before his death.
There was water in the lungs?
Yes, sir, indicating that the deceased was alive before he entered the water.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. You may step down. In the case of Captain Charles Wallace Fleming, the means of his death have not been determined. I therefore record that this court returns an open verdict of death by drowning in unknown circumstances which have yet to be determined.
Inspector, are you here as a mourner?
I'm here as a policeman.
Mrs. Fleming.
Mr. Ballard, did you come here to sympathize or to gloat?
Your husband and I had many differences, Mrs. Fleming, but I deeply regret his death.
I'm sure you do.
He's sailing on calm seas now, in a temperate latitude. The finest skipper has ever lived. God rest his soul.
Thank you, Frank, very much.
Mrs. Fleming, if there's ever anything I can do.
Yes, I know I can always rely on you.
Oh, you can that. Goodbye. Goodbye, all.
Goodbye, Frank.
Goodbye. Now, you'll look after her, won't you?
I will.
Good.
Mr. Templar, you've been most kind. I can't thank you enough. Hello?
Molly, it's Charles. Sorry not to have called earlier.
What is it?
Go ahead with dinner. I'll be home as soon as I can.
Mrs. Fleming, what's the matter?
It's my husband. He's still alive. He isn't dead after all. Oh. It was his voice. I recognized it. It was him speaking on the phone. I know it. He's alive. I tell you, he's alive.
He's dead and buried. That's all there is to it. I identified the body myself. I couldn't possibly have made a mistake.
Then how do you explain the phone call?
Someone impersonating the captain.
But why?
Do you mean that somebody could do this as a horrible practical joke?
For what reason?
Revenge? Envy? Malice? Greed?
I can't believe it.
Why not? Goodness knows the old boy had plenty of enemies.
Andrew, shut up.
I've lots of faults, Templar, but a hypocrite I'm not. I never liked my uncle.
Or anybody else.
True. Present company not accepted.
He was a wonderful man. Generous, good, kind.
The revered captain was about as kind as a hammerhead shark.
Andrew's hobby is being unpleasant.
I just face facts.
How is she?
Much calmer now. I've given her some sedation. And she's asking for you, Mr. Templar.
Yes, of course, you're right. He couldn't possibly be alive.
It would have been easy enough to record his voice by planting a device in his office.
But who?
Someone who hated you or hated him.
The captain was greatly loved and respected by everyone who knew him. Except perhaps Mike Ballard.
Ballard Fisheries?
Yes, he owns about 40 trawlers. My husband's biggest competitor. Recently, he tried to buy us out.
And your husband refused?
Yes. There's always been jealousy, rivalry between them. I can't think Mike Ballard would... It's too grotesque.
Mrs. Fleming, tell me again what happened that night.
I heard it all in court.
You could have forgotten something. Please.
Well, he came home at about 6 o'clock for dinner. Later, about 7:15, he said he was going down to the Crown and Anchor for a drink with the boys. He said he'd be home about 11. When it got to 1:30, I began to worry. I phoned round to his friends, but nobody knew where he was. Then I phoned Dr. Ormsby.
Why Dr. Ormsby?
Because I was treating him for a slight cardiac condition. Nothing serious, but it's the sort of thing that has to be watched in a man of his age. Mrs. Fleming thought he might have had an attack somewhere. Thank you, Andrew. We drove to Pier 12. 4 of the Fleming trawlers were in port that night, and the captain sometimes went on board to see the men after he left the pub. But he wasn't on any of them, so we just came home.
What time was that?
At about 3. I checked with the hospitals, no result, so I rang the police.
Doctor, were you satisfied with the coroner's report?
Well, an open verdict's never satisfying. Well, there you are.
Do you really think somebody knocked the old boy off?
Why do you talk like that?
It's a simple question.
Not a simple answer.
Well, I must be running along. I'll pop in again this evening. Give her something to make sure she sleeps.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'll see you out.
Did your uncle drink much?
Yes, quite a bit.
How did he hold it?
Liquor had practically no effect on him. That's why I can't believe he'd get so drunk he'd fall into the water.
Well, I'd better be getting back to the hotel. I'm staying at the Preston. I'm going to do a little snooping around, maybe find out a few things.
Our trawlers bring in 100 tons of fish a trip, Mr. Templar. It's a big business, not to be run like a schoolroom.
Is that the way he ran it?
I couldn't so much as order ink without the captain's personal okay. He resisted every innovation, every modern method.
But you made money, surely.
Precious little. Before long, we'll be begging Mike Ballard to buy us out.
Mr. Everett, you've been general manager for some time, haven't you?
10 thankless years.
Well, you must have been pretty close to the captain.
Yes, I was. Why?
Was he capable of suicide?
I don't know. He was very depressed.
Oh, about what?
Business. We have a large overdraft, Mr. Templar. The bank called it in.
Dated the day he disappeared.
Yes. He was a moody man. Tremendous ups and downs. Yes, I think it's quite possible he could have killed himself.
Captain was the finest man I ever drew breath.
You and he had been friends a long time.
Aye, since we were deckhands together. The fuzz just sprouting on our chins. 16 we were, first voyage. 40 years I served with him. Trawling off Iceland, Spitzbergen Bank. Guts, the captain had miles of them. I've seen in a net hook. Bury his leg to the bone and him not even wince. Every man that knew him loved him.
Except Mike Ballard.
Ballard sabotaged the Mary Dean. An all-free stern trawler. The captain's pride and joy she were. Sank it did. With 5 hands, North Sea.
The captain knew Ballard did it?
Yes, aye, he knew. And the Maritime Board of Inquiry would have cropped Ballard's masts once and for all.
The captain was going to testify.
Aye, and he wouldn't have spared Ballard. Would have got him a jail sentence, I'll be betting.
When's the board sitting?
Was supposed to be next week, but without the captain's evidence, well, there just ain't no case.
Why don't you look where you're going? Don't you shake your fist at me, mate. You Ballard boys, all the same, you want that duck to yourself.
Like dogfish, aren't they? Fighting over nothing. Been like that for 3 years now. The Ballard camp against the Fleming camp. Yeah, you know, in the old days, we all used to be mates, no matter who we worked for. Every night, the Ballard crews and the Fleming crews to go to the Crown and Anchor. And good times we had, too. Then the bad feelings came. Now the Ballard boys wouldn't be seen dead in the Crown and Anchor. They go to the Four Bells. Oh, why can't people get along?
I've got a question for you.
Yeah?
Why would John Everett be using a pay telephone? When he has a perfectly good phone in his office. I'll see you around. suicide.
Thank you, Mrs. Haggerty.
Is there anything else, ma'am? Anything?
No, really. You go to bed. You look very tired.
I'm fine.
Do you know, in the 10 years since I married the captain, I have never once heard you complain.
I've nothing to complain about. Good night, Mum. Good night, Miss Diana.
Good night. Feeling better?
Yes. A bit shaky, but better.
Arlene, could Mike Ballard be behind this?
Yes. I suppose it is possible.
He's so ruthless, and he wants to buy the business desperately.
Well, I'm not going to sell out ever.
Well, perhaps Mr. Templar will uncover something.
What do you mean?
He promised he'd investigate, help us. Well, if you can't sleep, wake me and I'll keep you company.
Thank you. Take that.
Diana, it's obvious. Somebody is deliberately trying to drive Mrs. Fleming out of her mind. That's the only possible explanation.
Unless you believe in ghosts.
No, Mrs. Haggerty, I don't believe in ghosts. Now, did you hear this car?
No, sir. But my room's at the back of the house.
The whole thing's incredible.
Oh, so you don't think it's possible that the captain...
Now, Mrs. Haggerty, Captain Fleming is dead and buried. There's no doubt about it, none. You understand?
Yes, sir.
She'll sleep for about 12 hours.
I'll stay with her, sir.
There's no necessity, really.
I know, sir. But I couldn't sleep now anyway.
And what about the pipe?
When we found it, it was warm.
The captain's?
His favorite.
Any particular significance in this? I mean, why this drawer in preference to the others? What did he keep in it?
That's where he kept his passport.
It's not there now. Come on. Diana, was this your uncle's too?
Yes, he often wore it.
Doctor, how is she?
I've given her massive sedation. In all my years of practice, I've never seen such hysteria. She can't stand any more. She must get out of this house, anywhere. South of France for a couple of weeks. I tell you, if anything like this happens again, I can't be responsible for her sanity.
Is she alone?
Mrs. Haggerty's with her. She should sleep through the night, but if by any chance she does wake up, just give me a call at once, will you?
Thank you, Doctor, very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, Templar.
Good night, Doctor. What gets me is the motive. Why? Why would anybody do this? Possibly gain if she goes out of her mind.
She did before.
Oh?
About 5 years ago. She was several months in the sanatorium. She recovered completely.
You ever seen the captain's will?
Yes. It should be in the top right-hand drawer. That's where he always used to keep it.
Thank you. I bequeath my entire estate and my business to my beloved wife, etc., etc. Hey, listen to this. In the event that my wife does not survive me for 28 clear days, my business and my estate shall pass directly to my nephew, Andrew Carter, with the exception of £15,000 to my niece, Diana Fleming.
Isn't that a fairly standard clause to avoid double death duties?
I suppose so. You know, it's pretty obvious that somebody who knows your aunt's past medical history is trying to drive her mad. I must admit they're doing a pretty good job of it, too. But now suppose the end object of the exercise is not to have her committed, but to get her to the state where she'll take her own life. Be neat, wouldn't it?
Surely you're not suggesting that Andrew...
Andrew is the heir apparent.
Pleasure, Bill.
Winning?
I usually do.
Your luck can turn, you know.
It won't.
0.
Last.
See what I mean?
Another 100.
You counting on your inheritance?
Just what does that mean?
Oh, we had another, what shall we call it, visitation tonight.
Well, well. You better tell me about it.
Oh, wet footprints, dripping oilskin, the captain's pipe with smoke curling out of the bowl.
It's either visions or vapors. Arlene should have been locked up 5 years ago.
Well, there's another 28 days to go.
You are mysterious tonight.
You don't like her, do you?
I never knew what the old man saw in her. Mind you, Uncle Charles wasn't much either. The captain, they called him, with that reverent look in their eyes as if he was one of the disciples. They had to practically lynch him to get him to install modern safety equipment in those stinking trawlers. Why should he? He was all right. Nobody ever drowned behind a mahogany desk.
A lot of words.
What's your angle, Templar? Why are you involved in this? Surely not the dimpled Diana.
I think Fleming was murdered.
Whoever did it deserves a medal.
No more bets. $32 red.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Place your bets, please. Thank you.
Oh, cheer up. I may hang something on you yet. Oh, by the way, suppose you did inherit the Fleming fishing fleet. What would you do with it?
I'd hold my nose and sell it as fast as possible to Mike Ballard.
Morning, Ballard.
Hello, Templar. What's on your mind?
Theories, all sorts of them.
Concerning me, maybe?
You and the late Captain Fleming.
Fine man, the captain.
Come on now, Ballard. Everybody knows how you felt about him.
Are you trying to say something?
The Maritime Board of Inquiry.
What about it?
Do you suppose it'll amount to much without the captain's testimony?
Wouldn't have amounted to much with the captain's testimony.
That's where you're wrong.
He had nothing on me. Nothing.
Oh, but he had. And he wrote it all down. 6 sheets of single-spaced type. I found it in the desk in his study. Full of very ominous words.
Such as?
Ballard. Sabotage.
Lies.
The commission won't think so. They'll blow you right out of the water into a nice little cell. Don't forget 5 men lost their lives when the Mary Dean sank. Friends of yours?
Fist fights on the docks are nothing. What I'm interested in is what you and Ballard were fighting about.
Inspector, you know what we were fighting about.
Fleming's death.
Murder.
Or suicide.
But nobody saw him on the dock that night. Nobody saw him jump. The blow the pathologist mentioned could have been delivered anywhere.
Oh, sure. Perhaps at the Four Bells.
The Four Bells? Well, his wife said he went to the Crown and Anchor.
He didn't that night.
That's important.
The Four Bells is exclusive Ballard territory. Fleming crews go to the Crown and Anchor.
So why the sudden switch? Why did the captain drop into the pub that was reserved and roped off for the opposition? Answer, he was looking for Mike Ballard.
Possibly.
Who has a 100% gold motive for killing him.
Yes, I know. The Maritime Board of Inquiry.
And then there's another one with a motive. His nephew.
Andrew Carter?
He inherits.
You're mistaken. Mrs. Fleming inherits.
You wait to see. Well, Mr. Everett, trust I didn't give you too nasty a turn. Ballard put you up to this?
Yes.
Which means he did sabotage the Mary.
No, not exactly. He paid somebody else.
Who?
I don't know.
Well, the captain knew. That's why he went to the Four Bells that night.
I suppose so.
And you're working for Ballard. Come on, Everett, I saw you with him.
If Ballard takes over Fleming, he's promised me a big job.
And stealing the envelope was just a little extra service.
Yes.
Oh, you better read it. You've come this far.
Blank paper.
It's a trick you should try. Being in the fishing business. Fishing without bait.
Come in. Mr. Templar.
Mrs. Haggerty, I wonder if I could have a couple of words with you.
But of course, sir. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Can I offer you a cup of tea?
No, thanks. You knew the captain very well, didn't you?
I've worked in this house nearly 20 years. Yes, I knew him.
What sort of man was he?
Moody, sir. Terribly moody man, and that's a fact. Up on the mountain tops or in the depths. I remember the night the Mary Dean went down.
He took it badly?
Broke his heart. He cried, Mr. Templar, like a child. It was shattering to see the captain with tears running down his cheeks. And for days afterwards, he didn't speak. It hit him that hard.
Then you think he could have killed himself?
Oh, no, Mr. Templar, not the captain.
Well, why do you say that?
Well, I just knew him. He wouldn't have given in, not like that. He was too determined to find out what really happened to the Mary Dean. My belief is, Mr. Templar, he did find out.
Whiskey and water, please. The last time Captain Fleming was seen alive, as far as we know, was in this pub. Maybe by you. Or you. Or you. Look, all I'm after is the truth. So what are you all afraid of? Well, somebody must have seen or heard something that night. Why the stony silence?
Why don't you go to the Crown and Anchor? Fleming's crew ain't welcome here.
Why not?
We prefer to drink with men we can trust. So do I. I'll be honoured, Templar, if you join me in a drink.
Thanks.
What is it?
Whiskey.
A whiskey and a pint, Fred.
All right.
Oh, well, sit over here, away from the smell of rotten fish.
I thought this wasn't your territory.
It isn't. If I heard you were here, well, I figured you might need a bit of help. These boys can cut up pretty rough.
And what was Fleming doing here?
Well, he had something on his mind.
Such as?
I knew he was coming here, and I guess there might be trouble, so I came as soon as I could. But the captain had already arrived, and he was giving Joe Carning the tongue lashing of his life.
I'll get you for this, Carney. I swear I will. And Ballard, too. I'll go to the National Maritime Board and the Ministry of Shipping, and I'll take every bit of evidence I've got.
Evidence? What evidence? You think you're the great white father of the sea or something?
You were on the Mary Dean an hour before she sailed.
Prove it.
Oh.
Hey, come on.
Let me go.
You're drunk.
I'll slit his throat.
Come on.
You sabotaged the Mary Dean. And I'm gonna prove it.
Oh, sure, some other time.
All right. Later.
So he left. I knew there was no good reasoning with him. That's the last time I saw him alive.
There is something wrong with
Oh, what was that all about?
Guilty conscience, maybe.
Who is he?
Joe Carney.
Excuse me.
There is something wrong.
Well, this town is the friendliest place.
Beat it.
Not until you and I have had a little talk about Captain Fleming.
I've got nothing to say to you.
Oh, yes, you have, and I'm in the mood to listen.
I said beat it. I didn't kill Fleming. We just quarreled, that's all. And I...
What time did you leave the Four Bells that night?
Early. I wasn't in the mood for drinking, and I didn't feel like company either, so I decided to go home. I never had anything really personally against the captain.
You murderer.
Now, Captain, will you stow it?
I'm gonna give you the licking of your life.
Captain, you're asking for it. You're near twice my age. Now, please, don't make me do it. For a minute, I thought I'd killed him. Then I felt his heart and heard him breathing. Templar, I couldn't help it. I didn't want to hit him.
But you did hit him.
Yes.
And did you sabotage the Mary Dean?
All I meant to do was wreck the refrigeration system, so his whole catch would go rotten. That's all. Something happened. It must have blown up. I don't know. 5 men drowned. I knew them. I never meant for a second that the ship would...
Did Ballard pay you for this?
When it foundered, I couldn't take the money.
Very noble. Inspector Mitchell will appreciate it.
You gonna turn me in?
You're going to turn yourself in.
Yeah. I guess I am. I swear it's been tearing my guts out. But Templar, you gotta believe me about the captain. He was alive when I left him.
All right. He was alive when you left him. Is he alive now?
I tell you, he is alive.
Arlene, stop it.
The identification wasn't conclusive. The body was in such a state it was impossible to be sure.
But the clothes, the ring, the tattoo.
Oh, anyone can wear the clothes and the ring and the tattoo. Well, there must be hundreds of sailors with an anchor tattoo to their right forearm.
You could talk yourself into believing anything.
Don't shout at her.
Why not? Somebody should.
If you're that sure he's not alive, how do you explain what's been happening?
Anybody can hang a raincoat on a coat rack.
Who?
I don't know, but it certainly wasn't him. Well, I didn't hear anything.
I did.
There's someone upstairs. It's him. It is. He must be here in the house.
All right, you go and have a little chat with him. And while you're about it, tell him I could do with a small loan. Don't humor her. She's making something out of nothing.
She is not.
There is nobody upstairs.
If you're so positive, go and see for yourself.
It was no hallucination, believe me. I saw it for myself. Pajamas on the floor, bath running over, even his clothes stacked up on the stool.
Yes, I saw it too. Our lane went completely to pieces. So much so we simply couldn't handle her here.
Well, where's she now?
Dr. Ormsby's taken her to hospital. The Millwall Sanatorium.
I brought her in. She was on the edge of a nervous breakdown. I gave her a massive dose of sodium amytal, enough to knock an elephant out. You can see her, but I don't think you'll be able to wake her up.
She looks so pale.
She'll be out for at least 10 hours.
And then what? When she wakes up?
I honestly don't know. She certainly can't go back to that house. I think she's on the verge of a schizoid break. And when the break actually happens, the patient retreats into a fantasy world of complete unreality.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Ormsby.
Just a minute, miss. I'll call you tomorrow. Don't worry about her. She'll have every possible care.
Yes, we know. Thank you, Doctor. Good night.
Good night.
Right. Now then, nurse.
It's Mrs. Miller.
Oh, she was transfused yesterday, wasn't she?
Yes, Doctor.
Your blood count's up.
Well, she's very uncomfortable, asking for sedation. Says the pain in her leg is worse.
Tell her I'll be in a minute, will you?
Yes, Doctor.
They've gone.
Very romantic. Quite a bedside manner, Doctor. No, I didn't leave. Diana did. She went for Inspector Mitchell. How did I guess? Very simple, dear lady. Your pulse. When I held your hand, it was racing. A massive dose of sodium amytal would have slowed it down to a walk.
Templar, try to understand.
Oh, but I do perfectly, Doctor. When the coroner brought in that open verdict and Inspector Mitchell started snooping around, you panicked. There was only one thing working in your favor. The identification of the body was not 100% conclusive. So you decided to make it appear as if the captain were still alive. You made the phone call.
Yes.
You planted the dripping oilskins, the burning pipe. Very impressive. Then, if they didn't buy that story, you decided on a secondary motive, to plant the suspicion on Andrew. You made it appear to people that he was driving you mad, trying to get you to jump out of a window or throw yourself in front of a car. Why? Because if anything happened to you, Andrew inherited the loot.
Look, we were caught in something.
Indeed you were. You spread suspicion all around, even on Ballard. So there would be less on you. Because you killed him.
We didn't mean to.
Oh, but you did. You killed him and threw him in the water. Cold, premeditated murder.
But it wasn't like that at all. That night we went to look for him. He'd been drinking heavily. He was violent, abusive. We tried to get him to come home.
Come home? What for? So that I can watch you two being lovers?
Shut up, Fleming.
I'll go to the Medical Association about you. And when I'm through, you'll never practice again.
You don't know what you're saying.
You think I'm a carp, maybe? That I can sink into the mud and bury myself so that I won't see how the water's stinking and contaminated.
You killed him.
Oh, he's alive. Ed, you'll ruin me. You'll ruin both of us.
No.
You hate him?
Yes, but I can't.
Well, I can.
He was a vindictive, cruel man. And he meant what he said that night. He would have carried out his threat. Ruined both of us.
Instead, we've done it ourselves.
We planned it all so carefully.
As Robbie Burns said, the best laid schemes of mice and men gang after glee.